Welcome to Prophecy Montana, folks. My name is Kerry. We have Ricky with us. We have Gary and Marla Marsh, the missionaries, as well. And we're going to be talking about some final events type stuff. We were talking about Babylon in the lesson. I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on the Babylon thing because this is something that's so misunderstood. And who is Babylon? Many have said that Babylon is the church itself and that we're supposed to get out of the church. Now, is that accurate? Is that inaccurate? And how are we supposed to understand what Babylon is, especially in the light of prophecy? Because we're told that the real Babylon would never be rebuilt again, even though Saddam Hussein tried to in the Middle East.
That was a place, but the teachings continue. The Greeks picked up what the Babylonians said about their gods. They liked their paganistic things. Even in the Jewish people in Jerusalem, they faced their backs to the temple and faced the sun in the east and worshipped the sun in the temple. That sun worship is our Sunday, our Monday's moon. You go through the days of the weeks. The Romans have renamed them because they like their gods to be named in special places. And so, we have the teachings of paganism rampant. What was taught in Babylon, to worship the gods, to go to save themselves, to do whatever. And we don't need God. We can do this ourselves, and we can forgive sins. We can do this, and we can do that. That is a doctrine that is rampant today in the Babylonian style.
Yeah, have you guys seen these Easter sunrise services that they do? Have you seen these?
I was asked
I believe
one
that
time.
even some Adventists are doing those too.
Yeah, even Adventists are engaging in these sunrise services.
Yeah, I was asked one time by a pastor and his wife, why don't we get up on Sunday morning and have a morning worship? I said, I don't want any part of it because that is what the devil does. Sunday is his key day.
That'd be like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and saying, look, our shoes are untied. Why don't we just tie our shoes real quick here while everybody else is bowing down? Of course, we wouldn't bow down to the image, but look, our shoes are untied.
Yeah.
Well, Babylon was basically, it's idolatry, worship of idols. And there was more than one.
Yeah.
And
They didn't want the God. They wanted their own.
we have that today. No matter what, where you look,
So
education, everything is just being changed.
So Gary, the teachings of Babylon. Now, we just mentioned Sunday. What are some of the other ones?
Well, it tells us that there would be an abomination of desolation. The temple was to be just vacated. What was offered in the temple to the Jewish people was the table of showbread, which stood for Jesus. The candlesticks, which represented the light of the world, which is Jesus. The incense, altar of incense, which represented the prayers to Jesus or God. And behind the curtain was the place of God's presence. But in the ark was the Ten Commandment law on stone, and right above it, between the two archangels, was the mercy seat. Without that, you and I would never get into heaven anyway.
One of the things that I look at in the old Babylon is going back to Daniel chapter 2. And we find that by history, the nations, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and then in the feet. And no matter how hard man has tried to unite the nations, they have not happened. I think of Michael Hassel, he's an archaeologist at the Southern University, and his grandfather was in the war in Germany.
He was
he told the commander that Germany would not win the war.
And he asked, how is that
And how
true?
is that? And he gave the story about Daniel 2. And they asked a professor, and the professor came and said, this is true. We are in those 10 toes. Right now in today's society, Russia, China, are they going to become world powers?
No, they're not.
If according to the Bible, they won't be. The only world power that comes after those 10 toes is Christ.
The stone that's cut out without hands. It's, in other words, it's miraculous. This
And we
is
are in
something
that time.
We're just waiting for that stone.
Tom was talking to us about this. Remember about the China, how it looks on paper like China could be the next superpower. It looked on paper at one time like Russia could be the next superpower. Remember Red Dawn and all those movies that came out, and they were
Why is Russia
showcasing all
not
this?
winning in Ukraine?
There you go. That's a good point.
It's why aren't they in the Bible? Why they are not in Revelations? The America was, and that's the power that's leading the world until Christ comes.
But even in today's thing, like in the news, the FBI went into the Catholic churches to investigate because of some of their teachings. We're all open to that. We're all open to that.
Interesting.
But wouldn't, though, like the original, the Babylon, the false teachings, how many false teachings are there out there in other denominations?
Oh, there's a lot of
I
them.
mean, just besides Sunday, then worshiping idols, praying to Virgin Mary, or
Doing away with the Ten Commandments.
baptism of infants, stuff like that. We're saved by grace, which we are. We're saved by grace, but works have nothing to do with it. The law has been nailed to the cross.
So we can.
There's all kinds of, intoxicating drink going on out there.
Well, and here's one, and I'm going to get banned for this one for sure, canceled, whatever. But homosexuality is now creeping into the clergy. You look at the old pagan religions. The priests had to engage in homosexual acts in order to be to rise to the level of whatever to become a priest. And it's interesting now that these things are now being practiced in mainstream Christianity.
Yeah.
That pastors are being allowed, gay pastors are being allowed to be ordained.
Even in our
This is
denomination,
There
in
are
our
several
denomination is
denominations
going
that
the
have
same
gay
thing is
leaders.
going on.
Gay.
What's that?
There are denominations who have gay leaders.
Oh, like Ricky just pointed out,
Ours.
the Adventists are now allowing it.
They have their churches.
Not mainstream, but individually.
Well, they're having it's the conference okayedness and stuff. They're having a gay pride Billy at a service. I forget where today in our church.
Yeah, we talked about that. And it's interesting that this is looking less and less like the unique church, not unique, the peculiar church that God had once rose up, and it's looking more and more like the pagan religion of the world.
It is. I
Some
believe
people will be concluded in that, and we have to be, again, the Lord is the center of our attention, and Him only will I serve.
in Him there's going to be a division. There's the wheat and the tares. There are the wheat and the
So
tares.
would something like homosexuality priesthood, would that preclude this church from being the true church of God? Because that question has to be asked. And a lot of people are asking these questions.
Those people would preclude themselves out of the church. They make their choices. If they're not following God, then they have to answer for them.
Okay, who was the true church of God? Was that the Pharisees or was it the disciples at that time?
Well, it would have been the disciples.
Amen.
Amen. And so the leadership of the church is not always speak on behalf of the movement. There's two different things going on here. There's leadership and there's movement. The Seventh-day Adventists, they qualify for both. There's a movement that's going outside of the wishes of some of the, I'm going to say some of the leadership, not all the leadership. No. There's good leadership in this church.
There is.
And we have to point that out too. There's good and bad.
But we follow Jesus.
There's going to be a great shaking, and it's going to shake those people right out.
That's a good point.
But do we know exactly how the shaking is going to go down, though?
Well,
no, we don't
know.
We don't know, but we have seen examples of that already. Like in a church that we know of, where the pastor said, well, he didn't believe in certain things and so forth. And when he walked out the door, half the congregation walked out with him.
Yeah.
We don't know who believes what, but by their fruits you will know them.
Well, but the wheat and the tares, they're growing together.
They're growing
and
together.
As we mature, they are becoming more and more apparent. And, you
Yes.
know, I don't want to be the judge. I don't want to be going around
cannot
being
be
going
the
like,
judge.
oh, look at him. It looks like he's falling off the
God-
track. I don't want to be that person.
God is the judge, not us.
Yeah.
We have to just make sure our own heart is
Our-
true.
Our thing is right here. And if whatever the pastor says,
Go home and check
we
it
can
out.
go home and
Go
check
home and
it
check
out.
it. He might have
And
some
that-
good things to
and-
say.
And that has happened where people have heard something from the pastor and they've gone and, hey, I didn't know that.
You know, I think it's probably even better to even do it while the pastor's doing it, so you catch it instead of forget it. Because when you go home, you usually forgot already
Yeah.
what was going on.
Man,
Anyway.
this is a great podcast. This was good. This was lively. What did you guys think of it? How about a thumbs up? And if you guys haven't subscribed, hit that subscribe button already. There's lots more content just like this. If you guys like discussions like this about Bible topics and prophecy in particular. So with that, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.